I'm sure a lot of coffee drinkers will be watching this video. And quite frankly, you might not like the video, but it's going to be very informative to you if you're struggling with ear problems, particularly clogged ears, eustachian tube dysfunction, tinnitus, and it's all going to come from consuming coffee out of this K-cup. Now, before I get into all the reasons of why you may be struggling with taking coffee and why coffee may be the one you should be pointing fingers at, I do want to state that coffee does have a lot of positive benefits as well. But for the mere purposes of this video, I'm going to address those that are struggling with eustachian tube dysfunction, tinnitus, ear problems in general. Now, it's not just the K-cup that's the problem, it's coffee in general. I just so happen to have a K-cup available. And I want to talk about something that's contained in a little bit of coffee here, and it's something called histamine. Histamine is a chemical release or chemical reaction of our body that not only triggers certain symptoms that we go through during allergy season and during things when it comes to swollen nasal passages, sneezing, and itchy and rash. Histamine can cause the swelling of the eustachian tube. Now, if you are drinking coffee and you tell yourself, well, or you ask yourself rather, I used to drink coffee all the time. Why are you bringing this to me now? How could this have anything to do with my ears? Well, I'm going to tell you there's another factor that you should keep in mind. This doesn't always apply to how you were before. I used to be a coffee drinker as well, but once I started having problems with my ears, things started to change. Now, when you drink coffee, you get a small amount of histamine, depending on the type of coffee it is, the brand and whatnot. Now, if you're sensitive to histamine, this is going to cause your eustachian tubes or auditory tubes to swell tremendously. Not only that, it's going to start building up fluid. So anytime that you have any obstruction in the eustachian tube, it's going to start retaining fluid, and therefore you're going to start accumulating other particles, and then you're going to start getting the inflammation build up because of the other things that are not working very well. And this is all going to lead to a lot of things, clogging of the ears, the swishing sounds, and it's all due to having a sensitivity with histamine. And I don't know if you've been told that. If you go into your visits and you haven't been told that, well, listen up, because I used to drink coffee myself. I used to love coffee. I used to drink it, I was very responsible with how much I had to. I drink 1 cup a day or maybe every other day. And I could tell you within maybe a couple hours, maybe 3, I would start feeling weird. My ears would just completely swell up. I was starting to get that build up feeling, that pressure feeling. Now, let me tell you, our eustachian tubes are meant for draining fluid and equalizing pressure, protecting our eardrums. Now, if you start to have a pressure on this side that's not even with the pressure on this side, you start to have a lot of problems. You start having balance issues. You start having dizziness, vertigo problems. You start just feeling weird. Even some cases, it takes away your ability to even have an appetite. So it goes into all of these different scenarios. And it's all because of that coffee you had. You had a cup of coffee. Now, I didn't get into caffeine. Caffeine's another thing. Caffeine releases chemicals, and it can also increase cortisol levels. So there's a couple things to keep in mind here. When you're drinking coffee, not only are you going to get that release of histamine, you're also going to get that release of cortisol levels. Now, another thing, when you drink that coffee, you become dehydrated naturally because of the acidity in coffee. So not only are you dehydrated, you have a spike in histamine, and you have a spike in cortisol levels. Cortisol can trigger many things. Inflammation, it can trigger your thoughts not thinking clearly. It can also trigger anxiety. So, and stress release responses. All these things are from that 1 cup of coffee you had. Again, to address those that are probably sitting there puzzled. I used to drink 3 or 4 cups a day and I was fine. Again, this is a different situation. When you have a problem with the auditory tubes, you have a problem with the eustachian tubes, things work a little bit differently now. Because of the fact that your tubes are now a problem to your life, you have to make adjustments. And that could just be structural problems, muscular problems. Again, coffee also, when you get the release in histamines, you're also releasing a lot of chemicals that can tighten the neck muscles and tighten the jaw muscles. This is all structural problems. And again, if you're dealing with this problem, you have to make adjustments. And being dehydrated is a destructive pattern to go in if you're trying to open up those ears and drain and trying to keep everything clear up here. So if you're in a dehydrated state, that's destructive. If your tubes are swollen, that's destructive. fluid retention, fluid buildup, and then now you're going to get the release of histamines, what's going to trigger a lot of other problems that you may or may not have. So you have to do your very best. And I know this video didn't come at the right time because of the busyness of lifestyles and things going on. You need that little spike in the morning. Again, I'm only addressing those that have had problems with the ears and the clogging and the sensations of how you feel in the ears in general. But if you are the person that's drinking it and you don't feel any difference or you don't feel any problems with it, then my best bet is do what's best for you. But in my opinion, if you're trying to figure out what's going on with you, that might be a start. You might have to kick the cup of coffee until you start to get back into the good flow of things. Alrighty, my wellness people, I hope this video was very helpful for you. If it was, take time to subscribe to the channel. I try to bring content as quickly and often as possible. But in the meantime, I'm going to step out of the Jaye Wellness Studio and leave you in good hands with this video. Like anything else, folks, we're here to simply go back to the basics. Take care, everybody.